All right, all right. Hey guys, welcome back to the Underground. Now, I am literally getting packed for PAX East for our 2025 community meetup as we speak, or as I speak. And man, super excited. See y'all in less than 24 hours. But before I left, I wanted to share my thoughts on a couple games. So this is one of two videos I'll be dropping, and it's because there's two new games that just launched right as we started getting ready to leave for PAX. The first one being Ghosts of Tabor, the second being Midnight Walk, which is also coming up after this. Now, but today I wanted to share just my first initial impressions. This is kind of a review in progress because Ghosts of Tabor has a lot of content in it, and it's going to take some time to both play and really do a deep dive and then let things process a little bit, and then I'll share my final thoughts later. But for those that are just, really wanting to know if whether or not they should go ahead and jump in and get it, I want to talk about the game just a little bit, share with you what to expect if you do choose to pick it up, which I will recommend or not recommend it at the end of this as well. Now, first things first, I was really worried about this game because honestly, it just seemed like it kind of snuck up on the store, and that is usually not a very good sign of things going well. But lo and behold, I am happy to report that I was wrong, and I will gladly eat those words that I said about my, not giving the vote of confidence with this launch. The game is surprisingly pretty smooth for a launch of a big multiplayer game like this, compared to, other games that I won't mention here, but y'all probably know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so visually it's really sharp, which is nice. And it's got a really smooth frame rate. It runs at a native 90 frames per second, which is really nice. So it's super sharp and clear, which is great. But on the flip side of that, it's not as detailed as I would have probably hoped for, but I did learn later that this is a really small team, and considering the size of some of these levels, which is almost like little mini open world sections with tons of areas in each level, it's actually pretty impressive. And there are moments that actually look really, really nice as well. It's just, you'll also come across some, areas that just look very low res textures, things like that. They'll stick out and you'll see them for sure. But like I said, overall, they kind of focus more on just making sure it performs well and runs smoothly. And it does for the most part. No real frame rate issues. Like I said, it's not blurry at all. There's literally no blur, which is really, really nice. So right off the bat, at least graphically, while it's not the most impressive game visually, it at least is very sharp and clear and smooth, which I think is probably slightly more important. Although I'm usually okay with taking a little bit of a hit for, getting a little bit more detail out there. Maybe that's something that will change. Gameplay wise, it's also pretty good for the most part, but there are some things that I do think need to be cleaned up just a little bit. The game has full manual reloading, and it's got a lot of different things that you can interact with. A lot of different, actually, there's some pretty nice surprises. Things like, obviously, like I said, there's manual reloading. There's grabbing weapons off your chest, grabbing ammo from your ammo pouches, grabbing your backpack. And it actually has a lot of interactive features, which is something that I care a lot about, especially, in particular with VR games. And I think they do a pretty good job for the most part. The weapons while they don't feel super weighty and impactful, probably due to a lack of haptics and adaptive triggers. They do have a little bit of haptics. It's not much though. And there's no adaptive trigger support, which is something I imagine they will get patched in. It does make the weapons feel a little bit lighter and not as oomphy as I'd like. I know that's not a word, but you probably know what I mean. But that being said, when it comes to just aiming and firing and aiming down sights and scopes that are just, actually rendered through the scope and everything, it actually feels really precise. If I miss, I feel like it's my fault that I missed. And there is a wide variety of guns, from heavies to SMGs to sniper rifles to pistols to knives to grenades. There's a nice variety of weapons that I really, really like. And in the beginning, it kind of starts you out on this little tutorial. And to be honest with you, I was kind of losing my mind in the tutorial. It's not that it's like awful, but it was just like something about it. I felt like I was kind of going crazy. First of all, you walk up to each stations and the voice just starts talking and talking. And like, before you even like know what's going on, it's already on like step 3.
If you're playing seated, select the seated automatic calibration. Be sure to also calibrate your screen overlay.
Calibrate.
The screen overlay will help indicate the level of injury you have sustained.
Okay, hold on.
As well as the in-game compass.
You're moving too fast. I'm lost. I don't know what to do.
Choose your dominant.
But, I guess I just kind of sat through it, worked through it and waited and went back to it and waited for it to speak and tried to follow and look at the pictures of what it was telling me. And I eventually started clicking. So it's a little bit tricky at first, maybe not as tricky as like Pavlov. It's a little bit more simplified than that. But it is like a little, like it just immediately throws you right into everything, how to use everything, and it moves pretty fast. So it might take you a couple tries. I do think it was useful overall, though. The one issue that I ran into with even just during the tutorial, and this is something that I hope that they address. This is one of my few complaints that I have. It's really just minor things overall, but it's an important one. Is that reaching over like a table or something like that to grab some ammo or grab a weapon, it does this weird thing where when you reach out, it like there's like a collision detection problem where you try to reach over the table and it actually pushes you backwards. And that's a little problematic because it's like it is really hard. Like when you're reaching for something just as simple as reaching to something on a table, you're like it feels like that much of a struggle. I don't know. I didn't explore to see if there is any kind of like extra assist. Usually in most games, you just get close. You get close enough. You just point at what you're looking at and it'll, force pull it towards you and you can grab it and equip it. I think they should implement something like that if they don't have it already, because it, like I said, it shouldn't be a life struggle just to pick up something off the table. And that kind of goes for interacting with some of the ammo as well. I think some of these things were patched at launch though. So I do have to go in and play it post patch because I am probably missing some things. I don't know if that's already been fixed or not. But overall, so this was my first time not only playing Ghosts of Tabor, but this is really like my first extraction shooter or survival shooter. Well, I guess I've played some survival shooters like Into the Radius, which was heavily inspired by like Escape from Tarkov, or this is more Escape from Tarkov. I think Into the Radius was more of that game that I can't remember what it's called, Stalker. But it's kind of like that similar survival first-person shooter mixture, and I think it works really well. You basically, there's loads of different, or there's a couple different locations to choose from, but then make sure you do this when you start playing, is make sure you select and look at the quests and the tasks and make sure you accept them or sign up for them, whatever it is, before you start jumping into the game, because these are things that you want to have. Otherwise, you're just going to be basically getting nothing for what you're doing. It's basically like accepting a quest before you go in. And the game loop, it starts you off in the level. It heavily revolves around looting, scavenging, of course, taking out enemies. And then you also have the added pressure of doing things like monitoring your water intake and your food, your calorie intake. You do have to do these, and they do work against each other in some ways. Like if you eat some types of food, it will decrease your hydration. And so You do have to kind of like scavenge, build up your arsenal, or if you get the DLC, it does start you off in your arsenal with a whole bunch of stuff. And the nice feature about that is that even, so the thing about this game is it is very intense. Because if you die in the level, you die in real life. No, not really. You just lose all of your stuff permanently. If you're playing PvP, the enemies can come and take your loot. And then if you're playing PvE, you just lose it and it's pretty much gone. I think I might actually retain some stuff, but no, I think it's gone. But anyways, so that's kind of how the game functions. You go into the level, you take out the enemies that you can, you get lots of loot, as much as you can cram into your backpack. And the backpack system here is, I both like it and dislike it. So it is similar to those that have played Into the Radius, where it's not like Saints and Sinners or such, where you have like your backpack that you take off and then there's slots that you can put stuff into. This works more like the backpack is just open, and whatever you can fit in there, you'll get to stick in there, and you can kind of place it how you want it and whatever to make stuff fit. Into the Radius, this worked really, really well. I loved this, and it was really smooth and easy to use. This game, not so much. This game, I actually, while I like having the open backpack where you can place things freely, I did spend way too much time just trying to fit stuff into my backpack the proper way. And sometimes like it didn't even make sense. Like, I mean, it would let me clip some things through each other. It would not let me even let things be within a mile radius of each other. It was very strange. So it's a little inconsistent, and I'd like a little bit more freedom to just throw stuff in there and take it out and not be, not have to spend 5 minutes rearranging my inventory the entire time I did that. But anyways, you grab all the loot and then you go around. You do have if you pick up the quest like you should, you do have the mission objectives where you can, like the first one, for example, for the PvE is basically just locate like a lab and then locate something else. And then, I think once you've completed all the missions, then you have to, it was like a radio tower. Then you have to find the extraction point and get out. I actually haven't completed this once, despite playing for 3 hours so far, maybe 3.5. I didn't complete this once because Brian and I actually played together, and we spent a lot of the time just kind of having fun. Like you can literally have a lot of fun just wasting time and just exploring and collecting and scavenging. And we spent a lot of time doing that versus just trying to complete the mission as fast as we can. The problem was that we spent a lot of time looting, and then we died, and then we lost all that loot. Now, to be fair, in our defense, the very third run, we had found the radio tower. We had found the labs, and all we had to do was get to the extraction point. This was in 3 hours. This was the only time that this happened, but Brian actually got disconnected. His game crashed, and when his game crashed and he fell out, I was then surrounded, and there was nothing I could do. I got instantly killed pretty much. But the interesting thing was when he came back, despite his game crashing out, he was able to rejoin the same session. Now, it didn't make much of a difference because I was dead, so he didn't have a lot of help. But it was still cool that if your game does crash and the other person is still alive or whatever, that they can rejoin the session. If you just die in the game regularly, you can't rejoin. You got to wait for the other person pretty much. So it does lock you out in that regard. But anyways, overall, I've been having a blast with this. I think you can spend so much time with it. With the PvE content, I did get the DLC as well. With the PvE content, there is some additional stuff with the DLC. And there was like a lot of different missions you can choose. And each one of those missions or locations, they also have a ton of quests and tasks for each one. So like you can easily spend over 100 hours in this game. And if you're like really hardcore shooter kind of guy or gal, you can spend hundreds of hours in this game, most likely. But yeah, man. So I've been having a lot of fun with this game so far. I have a lot more to play. Like I said, you can definitely sink tons of time into this. But a couple of my little gripes that I'd like to see them fix ASAP. I mean, obviously, gotta have adaptive triggers. Gotta maybe touch up the haptics a little bit. Maybe some headset rumble for some headshots. That's not as important, but that's just cool. There was a couple issues I did have, though. One was the footsteps. Dude, like, even if you're crouched and sneaking around, it's like, like, it is super stompy. On top of this, you're supposed to be able to use kind of like the 3D audio or the directional audio to kind of tell or pinpoint where somebody is. This, on paper, should be a really useful thing for you to have. But unfortunately, the audio is just all over the place. I mean, it sounded like people were crawling through vents constantly. It sounded like there was people right next to me or in the room over, and they were like nowhere nearby. So that is definitely one of my big gripes that they need to fix with, because that is a really important mechanic to have to kind of sneak around and be stealthy. And it just doesn't work. Like you hear footsteps everywhere. You think somebody's close and they're not. And then the other part that becomes problematic about that is that the enemy AI in this, they definitely need to tweak this a little bit, because basically every enemy I came across was practically a superhuman from a distance. I mean, they will easily spot you, which I don't have the biggest problem with. What I do have a problem with is that they are just like a master shot from any range at any time, and they're very aggressive too. So I don't like how accurate the AI is from such a long distance with any gun. They could have a submachine gun and they'll hit you from 2 football fields away. Okay, maybe 1 football field away. That is problematic. And so I'd like to see that improved a little bit. Obviously, playing against people, probably going to have a little bit of a different experience. But yeah, it's just, it's something I'd like to see. As somebody that does like PvE a lot more than PvP, it is something I'd like to see improve with the game, because yeah, it just doesn't feel right. It just feels a little too OP with the enemies. Although I do like a challenge, I like a fair challenge, and it just doesn't really feel realistic or fair in that regard. But it is fun sneaking around the levels and taking them out. And you can even do things like break their necks, which is crazy. I don't even know how you sneak up behind. Well, I guess you can sneak up behind them in the open, but in other places it can be kind of difficult to sneak up behind people. But yeah, man, I am really, really enjoying this so far. Like I don't, again, it being my first kind of like extraction shooter like this, I'm not totally sure how it stacks, like holds up against others. I'm sure there's probably some that are better out there, some that are worse out there. It's probably like above middle of the pack, I would say at least. But one thing I do know is that this game is really, really fun to play despite some of the minor issues. And there is a lot that a lot of time you can spend with this. So $25, I feel like, is an easy recommend. I think I'd give this game like really, okay, with some of the issues, assuming the issues get fixed. I'm in like the lower 8s here at the moment. This is a review in progress. This can change. I could see some people going higher. I could see some people going lower. I think the safe bet is kind of like the lower 8 range because of how much fun it is and how much content there is. And, like I said, performance wise, it is really sharp and clear. It's nice. The kind of just minor issues, some of the jank, like I said, reaching over the table to grab something is a struggle. That's problematic. Little things like that cause some issues. But I do think that these are all fixable things. So yeah, man, right now, review in progress. I got lots more to play of this, but I'm really, really enjoying it. I love the price point of $25, and even with the DLC, I say screw it. Just get the DLC with it. You'll get more than your money's worth. But do be careful, because when you start out, you don't want to take your best stuff into the match. Remember, sometimes go into the levels naked and just earn your stuff and figure things out. Maybe take like one pistol or something, just to have something with you. But don't take all your big guns in there first, because if you die, which you probably will starting out, they're gone. Again, if you have the DLC, they do have the seasonal wipes every 6-10 months, something like that, where you will have that restored, but you got to wait several months. So, but yeah, man, been enjoying it overall. And yeah, so I would recommend it. And I hope you guys pick it up and have some fun with it, man. This is one that we've been really looking forward to. So I'm really happy that it's not a disaster at launch. It just has some minor issues that need to get worked out. And I do think that this game will get improvements over time as well that will just make it even better and better. So good stuff, man.